President at the White House again. The meeting comes a day after the president had a conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Plus, it is day 17 of the government shutdown, and frustration is growing between both parties. Now, Senate Republican leaders, they are considering taking up a bill to get federal workers paid. And the president's former national security advisor, John Bolton, in federal court today. This comes just one day after he was indicted for allegedly mishandling classified materials. Thanks so much for joining us here on WTOL 11 Plus Now. I'm Jeff Smith. The Libby glass strike, it has now entered its 8th week. Workers on the picket line, they are fighting for what they call a fair contract. But tonight, we are learning exclusively that some strikers have given up the fight and have returned to work. One worker telling us, unlike the UAW strike, everybody on this strike line does not get strike pay. So, week after week, it became more and more expensive to stay out there. Here's Michael Sandlin.
Let's say you're a longtime Libby Glass employee. You haven't had a new contract since October of 2024, and you've been on strike since August of this year. It's been nonstop. You want to keep fighting, but as the weeks turn into months and grocery prices continue to soar, you have to start thinking practically.
It's the money issue, and the longer you're out, the more you do not want to go back. A lot of people do live paycheck to paycheck, or they don't want to start getting into their savings because once you start, it goes pretty quick.
So that's exactly what this employee was worried about and decided to cross the picket line and return to the job still waiting for them. Something the employees still on the strike line have little tolerance for.
Well, I mean, some people are okay, some people are yelling, certain groups yell more than others, but, you know, it's just a lot of swearing and yelling.
This employee takes that kind of verbal punishment to get back to work each morning, but they say they're happy to be back inside. And this employee isn't the only one either.
I've been hearing about 70, maybe 60, 70.
70 people who needed things to once again feel steady after months of uncertainty.
You're getting your paycheck, you have your insurance. Getting a regular paycheck is very good and very healthy.
As for whether or not this worker feels bad for leaving their coworkers behind, they say there's no guilt, just adult decisions.
You have to do what you have to do for yourself. And if they are able to stay out or they want to stay out, then that's up to them as well.
So, Michael, interesting dynamic that is playing out. Sad, tough for the region, obviously. But talk a little bit about what is, I guess, afforded to these strikers who are still on the line, because your subject who you talked to saying that they need to be back in there, they need to work. But you're saying it's not all bad news for those strikers out on the line.
Yeah, as you just heard, they said they don't get strike pay. But one thing that the workers on the line told me was they really feel like the unions do support them in other ways. A lot of the people that I spoke to on the line today told me that if you go in with your bills, whether that's your mortgage, your rent, your utilities, even your health insurance, if you have private health insurance for some of these people, the union has been eating those costs for them. That's how these people have been able to sustain for 8 weeks on the line. So no, they don't have strike pay, they're not getting that salary. And that's what my subject was saying was they need to pay grocery bills, there's other things that they have to afford, but the basic amenities are still covered by the union, so they can try to keep that strike going as long as possible.
I want to go back to something that we talked about, and you said you had talked to Toledo Mayor Wade Capsicavage about this in a story. You've been following this for the last 8 weeks, but a couple of weeks ago, and if there's any type of moment that the city can bring these two sides to the table or talk to both sides and get some progress.
So, Wade doesn't want to get his hands too far into the pie here, so to speak, but they are trying to apply pressure onto Libby just to try to bring an end to this. This is a huge industry for Toledo. So Wade told me that they're applying pressures. They're removing the tax incentives that Libby gets for next year, hoping that that will make Libby at least come back to the negotiating table. As of right now, it didn't really seem like that's making any difference. And the way Wade described it was they're actually planning on eating those costs. They've factored that in. Yeah.
Anytime we go out on a strike line, obviously you don't know what you're going to be met with any specific day. What was the feeling out there today, especially knowing what you were asking?
So, because I was asking that specific question, the feeling was irritants, anger, frustration. These are people who are sticking it out. They're out there for hours at a time, regardless of the weather, regardless of the conditions. Eating crappy little snacks and sitting under a tent, and they see people go back inside, enjoying their jobs, and they're saying, look, we feel like this is cowardice in the face of corporate greed, and these people are kneeling to these people that won't do what we deserve.
Right.
They say they're fighting for, the basic amenities, fair contract.
Yeah.
And so for them, they feel like it's a bunch of people who, at the 10-yard line, are basically calling it quits. They're frustrated.
But ultimately, you have some change that's happening out there on the line. Michael, thank you. Let's cover what's being talked about around the globe. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visiting with the president at the White House today to talk about ending his country's war with Russia. Zelensky says he is ready to negotiate and is pushing for a ceasefire, but claims Vladimir Putin is not seriously talking about peace. This meeting comes after a more than 2-hour phone call between President Trump and President Putin. They agreed to meet for another round of face-to-face talks in Hungary. It is day 17 of the government shutdown, now the third longest in modern history, and lawmakers showing no signs of progress in reaching a deal. Democrats refuse to show support for a short-term spending bill unless the measure extends health insurance subsidies that expire at the end of the year. Republicans say that issue will have to wait until after the government reopens. On Thursday, the Senate failed to pass a bill to fund the Pentagon for a full year. Democrats have called on President Trump to take a more proactive role in negotiations, but a White House official says the president has no plans to personally intervene. Senate Republican leaders, they are considering taking up a bill as soon as next week to pay federal workers impacted by the shutdown. That is according to a source familiar with the matter. Up until now, Republicans have held off on voting to pay workers, saying that Democrats needed to vote to reopen the government for that to happen. GOP leaders are also weighing introducing a bill that would require members of the military to be paid. President Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, surrendered to authorities earlier today. The 76-year-old pleaded not guilty to 18 felony counts in a Maryland courtroom. He is accused of mishandling classified materials. The felony counts allege that Bolton shared more than 1,000 pages of highly sensitive information about his day-to-day activities in the White House. Legal experts say it could be months before the next court date. If convicted, Bolton could spend the rest of his life behind bars.
We were over 200 pumpkins before the show even opened. And then we just have round 2 already prepped, and we'll be able to carve those as needed.
Still to come, thousands of pumpkins are lighting up the night sky. Meet the team that carved each one of them by hand. That's straight ahead. Also, you are getting a first look at a rare blue diamond before it goes up for auction later this month. Actually, it's next month, I should say. We're going to tell you who it belonged to and how much this thing's going to go for. John?
And we've got some wet weather that's going to impact those weekend plans, tracking some widespread rainfall and also windy conditions. I'll let you know when that rain arrives coming up next.
Welcome back. We've got the latest on what's trending on social media. Here's Laura Sandlin on our TikTok page.
Parents, there is a new bill introduced in the Ohio House called the Right to Know Act, and it's being sponsored by Representative Josh Williams. The act is all about hospitals offering genetic testing at birth, and this is for parents to have the opportunity to test paternity as well as maternity. Now, the testing is optional as it does require the consent of both parents, who they can decline. However, they would have to acknowledge the fact that they were informed. And while the act is partly targeted at reducing any issues in hospitals, such as identification issues or baby swaps, at the same time, it is mainly targeted at unmarried couples in the state of Ohio. And the reason for this is because they're trying to reduce the number of court cases related to paternity, not only due to cost, but also due to the fact that they believe that they have the right to know the biological parents at the time of birth. The act still needs to be approved by the Ohio Senate as well as reported by the committee and passed by the House before we move on to the governor's desk. Additionally, right now they are waiting on a fiscal analysis to actually see how much this would cost hospitals as well as any state funding would need to be used.
Make sure that you are following WTOL 11 on your favorite social media platform to stay up to date. An extremely rare blue diamond is up for auction, and it comes with a hefty price tag. The 9.5-carat pear-shaped stone is headed to the auction block next month, where it is expected to fetch up to $30 million. Graded internally flawless, the vivid diamond once belonged to an American heiress who designed the White House Rose Garden back in the 1960s.
The magic of auction is we never know exactly what will happen on the day of the sale. But what we do know is that the color of this stone is extraordinary, and it's a once in a lifetime, stone for any real collector.
The auction house Christie's refers to the diamond as the melon blue. It goes on display in Hong Kong beginning next week ahead of the sale in Geneva, Switzerland on November 11th.
A little outside my price range.
She better be worth it, I'll tell you.
Yeah. I don't think my wife would even know the difference between a blue diamond.
Oh, I'm sure she would.
Yeah.
I'm sure she would. Let's talk a little bit about that forecast heading into the weekend. And
tomorrow could be considered the diamond in the rough.
There it is.
Yeah.
I was wondering, is this our transition, you think? These next few days?
Yeah, well, there's no official transition, but it sure seems like we're trending in that cooler direction, Jeff. That is after tomorrow. We're going to go from the 80s to the 50s this week. So really some significant changes in the weather. And that's because of that strong fall cold front. So it's going to bring us rain, wind, and also that drop off in temperatures. Now, tomorrow is going to be the can't miss day of the weekend, especially if you're hoping to enjoy some milder feeling conditions. Our temperatures are going to be up in the lower 80s, feeling more like late summer than late October. And rain's going to be arriving late in the evening, mainly near to after sunset on Saturday. Friday night plans, temperatures are seasonable, mid to upper 60s. You will want a light jacket or a long sleeve for this evening. High school football games going to be a nice and dry setting. There has been a little more cloud cover that's moved on in. None of the clouds you're seeing in the sky right now are rainmakers, although the rain could be here in a little over 24 hours time. That next dynamic storm system that's going to be bringing us wet and windy conditions, that is over the Great Plains right now, and there's a strong fall cold front to go along with it. Now, ahead of that front, feeling more like August tomorrow, late day rain, but we'll climb up to 82 degrees before a drop of rain arrives. Rain's going to be returning late Saturday and Sunday, and it's going to be breezy and wet with the chance for gusts of up to about 40 miles an hour early Sunday. Dry weather continues for the rest of your Friday night. Let's set that hour by hour clock into motion. Going to be a very warm day, potentially even near record warmth for your Saturday. Heading into the afternoon, we do stay mostly dry, but there could be a couple of isolated showers and storms pushing in near to after sunset. The heaviest rain is likely to occur as you're sleeping and into Sunday morning, and you're going to wake up to a strong blustery breeze. Winds are initially going to be coming from the south, but they're going to be turning to the west behind that front, and it is going to be a breezy feeling day Sunday with a couple on and off showers that'll be tapering off. So how much rain can you expect? We're generally anticipating around an inch of rain for the Toledo Metro, a little bit less south and east of the river, and a touch more possible north and west. No major flood concerns, but there could be some isolated urban flooding, especially in those areas where there's leaves clogging the drainage drains on the side of the street. In terms of the drought monitor, we still have extreme drought conditions across across the region, essentially spanning along the Maumee River corridor towards Fort Wayne and south of the Maumee River. So this will be a drought buster to some extent, but it's going to take a lot more than one rainfall to totally alleviate that drought. Saturday, a very warm day, 82 degrees expected. Sunday, wet and windy conditions are likely. Needless to say, don't go out on Lake Erie because there's the chance for gale force winds out over the water. Heading into next week, a cooler fall setting is going to be arriving, and we're going to flip a switch that is going to usher in some more seasonable late October weather. Rain chances only a 30% late Saturday. We have bumped it up to an 80% on Sunday, and then there's going to be another chance for some spotty showers coming in on Tuesday. That Tuesday cold front not likely to bring any heavy rain, but it's still going to have a big impact on our temps. In fact, late week highs only in the upper 50s, and those late week low temperatures, the smaller numbers, we're going to be dipping down to the upper 30s. So there could be a little bit of patchy frost, and after those 80-degree temperature readings tomorrow, there are no signs of any major warmth on the horizon. So enjoy it before you'll need that jacket for the week ahead. Jeff.
All right, John. Well, there is something spooky at the Minnesota Zoo. There are over 5,000 jack-o'-lanterns on display right now. But do you know the story behind them all? Well, you're about to find out. Rena Sarganopoulos has the story.
I never actually seen this many pumpkins in my whole life.
Prepare to be floored
I think she's the one that got hit with the house.
by the most amazing collection
Big giant clown.
of gourds.
There's the ginormous pumpkin. There's the tiny little ones.
The Jack-o'-lantern Spectacular at the Minnesota Zoo is exactly that, a feast for your senses.
I can't even count, even though I want to count.
Don't worry, kiddo, we've got you covered.
So there's over 5,000 jack-o'-lanterns that light the whole forest from the ground to the trees.
Brian Christensen is with Passion for Pumpkins, the company hired by the zoo to make the night come to life.
This pile over here is going out today.
Planning actually starts in early September, designing the trail and getting a jump start on pumpkin production.
So we'll do over 200 pumpkins before the show even opens. And then we just have round 2 already prepped, and we'll be able to carve those as needed.
Why? Because the show is 40 days long and nature's gonna do what nature's gonna do.
As soon as you gut them, it's just a time bomb ready to explode out on a trail. It's in the middle of the woods. There's bugs, there's fruit flies. Temperatures are erratic.
At any one time, there are more than 100 of these intricate carvings on the trail, with 10 to 20 being replaced each day. Up to 600 being carved over the course of the show.
This is an astronaut pumpkin.
Which means it takes a team to help keep things terrifying.
It's almost done. I think another 30 minutes should be ready.
Nick has been working on this pumpkin for about 6 hours. He's one of 20 artists who, for a couple of months a year, step out of their real world to be part of this Halloween experience.
So I've done a lot of work on video games and some advertising campaigns, stuff like that.
Now, he's a sculptor of squash.
Once you get into the flow of it, it's kind of meditative almost.
Erin, too.
Well, I'm working on the Boundary Waters,
You can usually find her teaching both drawing and painting.
but you kind of need these big pumpkins to be able to get it to glow the right way. And I don't even know where I'd buy one.
The pumpkins weigh in at 50 to 120 pounds. The artists start by drawing and painting using black ink. Then they do something called relief carving, using tools like sharpened bobby pins on wooden dowels, somehow creating entire scenes by making highlights and shading using nothing but the pumpkin for color. Only then are they scooped out.
We'll take it in this dark room and we'll be able to make final touch-ups, knowing exactly what it'll look like out on the trail.
This is Brian's take on American Gothic. He, by the way, is a tattoo artist, among other things, in his other life. And when this temporary art becomes food for the squirrels, another will replace it, meaning every time you visit, the experience is different.
I haven't seen anything like this before. We really appreciate the time it took to do something like this.
So I guess it's true. The devil really is in the details.
I really liked that.
We really try and promote local, diverse voices that you won't hear anywhere else on the radio.
Still to come, after only being on the air for 3 years, an area radio station may be forced to turn things off. Thanks for being with us here on WTOL 11 Plus now. Here's a look at some of the local stories that we're tracking tonight. Just into the newsroom, the University of Toledo has rescinded its job offer to Carrie Hartman, who left her position as Toledo City Council president for the university job. A University of Toledo spokesperson telling WTOL 11, quote, the University of Toledo had extended a conditional offer of employment to Carrie Hartman. That offer has been rescinded, end quote. It is still unclear as to why. Hartman was set to begin her new role as the university's Director of Government Relations on Monday. Her last day on council as council president was today. We've got an update to yesterday's water main break that flooded a street outside of Rossford High School. According to those at the Northwestern Water and Sewer District, there is only one lane open right now going northbound on Superior. This is from Bacon Street to Glenwood Avenue. More repairs are planned for next week to replace the damaged pipe. They say the age of the pipe may have contributed to the cause of that leak. A Toledo radio station could soon be going off the air. WAKT-FM is a nonprofit volunteer-based station. It has been in the works for a decade and broadcasting for the past 3 years. Development Director Nathan Staples says the board recently decided that if they can't get more funds by the end of the year, the station will have to shut down. Staples says the station fills a gap in Toledo.
We really try and promote local diverse voices that you won't hear anywhere else on the radio. And part of that is trying to promote local music. So if you're a local band and you're trying to get radio play, there's literally nowhere else you can do that other than on WAKT.
You know, kind of younger.
He says although money is the biggest help, they are also looking for more listeners as well. You can catch WAKT on 106.1 FM, or you can stream it online. To learn more about the station, you can go to our links mentioned section of our website, WTOL.com. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has released new guidelines for updated COVID-19 vaccines. The current recommendation is a shared decision-making model. ProMedica Dr. Brian Kaminsky says this means people are encouraged to discuss risks with their primary care provider and then decide if they should get the vaccine. He says most people qualify for the vaccine here in Ohio and Michigan. People do not need a doctor's prescription.
If you think you might be a candidate for a vaccine, I would encourage you to do some research on it, talk with your primary care provider, and if indeed you qualify and something that you want to receive, there still is great benefit to the vaccine. We know that people who receive the vaccine are much less likely to develop severe disease, they're much less likely to transmit the disease to other people, and it strengthens and builds your immune system.
Dr. Kaminsky says there was a mild surge of COVID during the summer, and there is likely to be another surge as we move into the winter months. In Napoleon, it is more than just a stadium. It is a source of community pride. Built by local hands and fueled by hometown spirit, Charles Buckenmeyer Stadium, or better known as the Buck, has been the heart of Wildcat sports for more than 2 decades. This week on the leaderboard, we took a look inside.
In Napoleon, it's more than just a stadium. It's a source of community pride. Built by local hands and fueled by hometown spirit, Charles Buckenmeyer Stadium, or better known as the Buck, has been the heart of the Wildcats sports for more than 2 decades. From Friday night football to the River Rock rivalry, it's where memories are made and the whole town comes together. Chase Bachman takes us inside this week.
The Buck, as we affectionately call it, serves home to our football programs, soccer programs, and then track and field. It was built in 1998. One really neat thing about it is it was a total community-driven project. Our head coach at the time, John Snow, got together a group and they raised the funds, got some of the labor donated by local construction companies. There was even a community push that we're even helping put the bleachers in, screwing in the screws into the bleachers, so it was totally community-driven.
In 1998, the school dedicated the field to Morley Beck, a 6-year-old from Napoleon who died in a car accident in 1992.
It was a grass field to start, and then in 2016 we added the turf, and that's when soccer came over and started playing here. So it's a great facility, it's a community facility, and it's certainly a pride for our community as well. Last summer we renovated the press box, so we added some new countertops, painting, new flooring. We're really lucky that we have 2 floors. Not a lot of places have 2 floors, so we have a lot of room for coaches and for media. We put in a whole new sound system this summer.
Do you have any personal favorite moments that took place in the stadium?
We've had some really good games. Probably last year, the River Rock rivalry, we beat Defiance on a walk-off extra point when we scored a touchdown. That was pretty awesome. We had the whole community was out there, kids rushing the field. We have what we call the Little Buck, which is just beyond the fence, and so kids are out there playing. So we take a lot of pride in making sure when teams and when fans come here, they feel welcome, they feel like it's a good atmosphere, and that they have a good experience while they're here.
Well, from there, check this out. A 95-year-old man has started a Taylor Swift fan club at his Nebraska retirement home. Frank Wendt is hoping that it will convince the pop star to come visit. He says the club started out with 10 people originally, and then it became 20, and now it has 100 members. With his walker all decked out with its own custom Taylor Swift decal, I should say, Frank and the club are hoping for some good karma to go along the way. Good luck, Frank.
That's pretty funny.
We'll have to get a follow-up story on how that turns out.
Oh, something about being a Chiefs fan as well.
That's right in line with
Taylor. They go hand in hand.
That's
yep.
right. That's right.
Forecast this weekend, we got kind of a tale of 2 days. Saturday is going to be a great outdoor day. Sunday might be an indoor day with rain, wind, and a much chillier feel. Up in the lower 80s tomorrow. Rain's likely to hold off until near to after sunset, and then that breeze really kicks up by Sunday morning with rain showers that'll be likely. Still expecting around an inch of rain for most of lower Michigan and northwest Ohio. A nice dry day Monday before another front moves through Tuesday. Rainfall with that one looks quite a bit lighter, but still the impact to our temperatures is going to be felt with those highs in the 50s. Lows could be shy of 40 degrees with some areas of patchy frost. And we do have a drier and quieter weather pattern ahead with a gradual warm up to the 60s. Definitely looking and feeling a lot more like October in that 10-day forecast, Jeff.
You said frost, not freeze.
Yep, no freeze expected, but certainly could be a little frosty.
So glad to have you with us. Thanks for joining. We hope to see you tonight on WTOL 11 at 11.